Hey everybody, RSG Hockey RSG Wealth presents Life After Hockey. I'm Mike McKenna. Today we got something special, and our guest, his name is Grant Clitsome. And Grant, you're going to notice I'm not smiling right now. There's a reason for that. You went to Clarkson, I went to St. Lawrence, one of the fiercest rivalries in all of college hockey. I need you to convince me why I should like you and why we can be friends and talk like humans the rest of this interview.
Oh, geez, you're putting me on the spot here now. I think, well, let's first think back a mutual connection. So I have a few friends that I played hockey with, ended up going to St. Lawrence. And, I don't hold it against them anymore. Guys like Mike Medill, Max Taylor, guys I played a lot with that I really, really respect. Went to SLU. What else I got? I mean, how many schools are there in the NCAA that are 10 minutes from each other?
Not
D1,
many.
big time rivals. So as much as there's huge rivalry there, I think there's also a lot of respect.
Yeah, well, I think we're good now. We can get that out of the way. It's funny because once I've gotten out of the rivalry, you have a very different appreciation for what the North Country's like. Again, having that rivalry 10 minutes away. And I played with Mark Borietsky a couple times in my career and him going to Clarkson, and we're good friends now. And we both experienced something very unique, it felt like, playing up there.
Yeah, it's a great experience. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, you go there in the summer and there might be 5,000 people in the town, and then you go there for the school year and it like quadruples. And there's Potsdam State, there's SUNY Canton, there's
Right.
4 or 5 different post-secondary education universities or colleges in this really small radius. So it's a really fun experience. Like, the fans are so passionate about it, and in our case at Clarkson, where it was the only D1 sport, so really hockey was kind of the big draw at the time. So and great rivalries. Like, it was just so much fun.
Yeah, those are my favorite memories, Clarkson St. Lawrence games. And let's touch on that. I mean, you finished at Clarkson with a degree in business technology management, and you even furthered your education, grabbing an MBA at Queen's University afterwards. You had a lengthy NHL career, 6 years in the NHL, 8 years pro, but was life after hockey always on your radar, even when you just got to school?
To be honest, it wasn't. I think before I started playing pro hockey, it was. And that was a big reason why I decided to go NCAA. I thought, there's no way I'm going to make the NHL. I'm going to try my hardest to make the NHL, but if I don't, at least I got a backup plan. And my backup plan was to get a degree. And I think when I first started playing pro, I was a little bit naive, thinking that, well, I have my backup plan in my back pocket. That's all I need. So, when my career is over, somebody will just give me a job because I have a university degree. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So I think as my career progressed, I started to think about it more and more. I was looking into writing my GMAT, which is the entrance exam to get into an MBA school, while I was still playing. So I was taking courses, and I was in the American League, and I signed up to write my GMAT, and I didn't end up writing it because I got called up like a week before, and ended up playing the rest of my career up, which was amazing. And so when I retired, it was just a question of what's next. And I think, for a lot of guys, that's a tough question because you have so many things going on in your life, so many changes. So for me, it was to just try and keep moving, stay busy, try new things, see what I liked, what I didn't like, and get as much experience as I could. So that's really what I did. So I ended up going back to school after that.
What was it like going back to school and grabbing your MBA after having a career in the NHL and a lengthy professional career?
It was weird, to be honest, intimidating for sure. So when I retired, started a small family apple cidery, and we started making hard cider at a family farm, and that kind of piqued my interest in business more. And I thought, okay, I think this is going to be a bit of a side thing, but I really want to learn more about business. So the MBA kind of came naturally, and I took what's called an executive MBA. So it's designed for more senior level employees to be able to do the MBA while they're still working. And so you're thrown into this class of, I think we had 80 people in our class, and it's a mix of people from their late 20s, would probably be the youngest, all the way up until their mid 50s, with ranges of work experience. And here I am with next to no work experience. So it was pretty intimidating. I'd been out of school for 10 years. And you're thrown back in the mix, and you're thinking like, okay, I hope the prof doesn't ask me a question. I'm just going to bury my head. But, we kind of realized that there's a lot of group projects, a lot of group work involved in the MBA program. And that's when I started to notice the the skills that I could bring to the table, the experience I had playing pro sports and being around a team my whole life, that just came second nature. And to a lot of people, it doesn't. So that kind of helped my comfort level. And then it's just like anything, the more experience I had in it, the more mistakes, the more successes I learned from, and then just build my confidence.
Did you find that you kind of fell into somewhat of a leadership role when you do group studies like that, or was it just the teamwork aspect that aided you?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I never really thought about that, but I would say at first I was definitely timid and kind of not wanting to take a leadership role just because I felt inexperienced in a business setting, and these people had all been working for years, some decades. But then as things progressed, to try and take a little bit more of a leadership role. And there was even some times where I noticed that people were reluctant to take a leadership role. And that's where I tried to kind of step in and it's something you could speak to as well. Just the experience being in a team setting, you're used to dealing with different personalities and different dynamics and people with different strengths, and then trying to utilize those to the team you can.
You know, what's funny is that you mentioned about being somewhat intimidated, and the people in that classroom are looking at you going, this guy played in the National Hockey League. It probably the word got out at some point, and you'd have to think in the back of their head that this is a guy who could lead us. And from what I've found in the work world is that, and it's why hockey players in general can be really looked upon as being good teammates, but we just have that inherent drive to be able to lead and organize people, it seems like at times. It's funny how that transfers over. You're something of a Renaissance man, though. I mean, you just mentioned that you've got an artisanal cidery in Quebec. You're also a sommelier, so clearly wine's something you're into. And then you're also director of career transition for One Sports and Entertainment Group. So you've got all these things going on. How do you find yourself budgeting time with all these different interests?
Well, I think actually trace that back to my university days, because I think, pro hockey, you have to, as a pro athlete, you have to manage your time. You have to learn how to manage your schedule. You're kind of, when the season's done, you're kind of responsible for your own development and your own training, and you have to look after yourself. But in college and university, you're juggling your classes, your schoolwork, your social life, your hockey, and then you're training outside of hockey. So you're really kind of thrown into an environment that you have to develop a certain schedule or type of time management skills to be able to succeed in all those different facets. And so I think that helped me a lot. And then in pro hockey, it was pretty similar. Like, I just tried to use my downtime to be productive. I've always, I don't know if it's something that I've just had naturally, but I've just always tried to be as productive as I can. And that's really what I've done since my career's ended. So, artisanry with a lot of work to get started, and now that it's up and running is pretty hands off, except for a couple times a year, and the MBA is done with, and so it's kind of like, pick a project, work on that, finish it, and then move on to the next. And so that's what I've tried to do so far since hockey's been over.
So when you came out of hockey, you got to work at the cidery, and you go and you get your MBA. What was the process, though, for you joining One Sports and Entertainment as the director of career transition?
Yeah, so I was at the cidery, got my MBA, and kind of while I was doing my MBA, Chris Moynes, who's the managing director of the One Sports Entertainment, One Capital,
and fantastic tennis player, by the way.
He is, yeah. Is my financial advisor. And so we had a long relationship. We've worked together for a long time, and we had numerous conversations during my MBA about, hey, I'm thinking about doing this as a job. Hey, I'm thinking about maybe starting a coffee shop. Hey, I'm thinking about investing in real estate. Just kind of constantly bouncing ideas off him. He had previously written a book called After the Game, which is something that he took, I think, 5 years ago, and sat down and wrote a book about the struggles that athletes face when they go from being a professional athlete to life after sports, and the lack of resources, the lack of help, the going from the complete structured environment where you're told where to be and what to do to all of a sudden you're by yourself and you don't have this team around you to support you. And so he had experienced in his career multiple dealings with clients where they're doing the same thing I was doing, where I was calling them and saying, hey, Moinsey, like, what what do you think about this idea? What do you think about that idea? I'm thinking about going back to school. And so he said to me, why don't you come work for us and help us put together a program that can help athletes deal with exactly that challenge? So I thought, sure. I mean, it's a great fit. I'm right out of business school, going through the transition myself. And so that's kind of how that came to be.
There is an official attachment here between RSG and One Sports and Entertainment on the wealth side of things. And I'm curious how that has kind of progressed as you've started with it, to see players that are currently in the game leveraging, what they've accumulated for wealth, and taking it and doing other things after the game and for their post-playing career, and what you've been able to do on the One Sports and Entertainment side. So, working with Chris Moynes and figuring out your own place in the business world, where do you think you've really taken it and been able to help people move on and get ready for their post-playing career?
Yeah, and I must say too that I think one of the really good fits with One Sports and RSG was how passionate Al was also about helping athletes with life after hockey and after the game, as you can see with all the work he's doing with it. But he's such a big believer in trying to help the athletes develop after hockey, and he's seen firsthand a lot of the same experiences Chris has seen. So I think one of the things we've tried to do in the after hockey program and after the game is really put together a network of resources and experts in different fields that can help, whether it's career transition and figuring out what your strengths and weaknesses might be, doing assessments and trying to narrow down a career path you might want to pursue, or whether it's knowing what you want to do and then really trying to find a job in that field, or whether it's going back to school and getting an education. So it's really just putting together those resources. Role is really as a peer, as an ex-player, to be able to have a conversation with some of our clients and just say, I've gone through what you're going through, and I'd love to chat with you about it and see what you're thinking and where your head's at, and have you started thinking about this, and have you started thinking about that, and how can I help you be better prepared for when your career comes to an end.
One of the things that you guys had planned for this year, unfortunately, it's been pushed to 2021 with COVID taking place, and hopefully the world gets back to normal. We can start getting these things going again. But you had planned on having a week-long program at the University of Utah School of Business. Can you just give us some insight as to what that program was going to outline and what your goals were to accomplish with it?
Yeah, so we've been very fortunate to put together a partnership with the David Eccles School of Business at the University of Utah. A very well respected business school. And we were working on putting together a business combine for a week in the summer. We're targeting professional athletes, but really all athletes. And the goal was to have it to a limited size, so around maybe 30 athletes to start, so it's a more intimate setting. And really the beginning of the week was focused around that career services, career development, where you're doing an assessment, you're hearing from professional life coaches, career coaches who are helping you discover your strengths and how you can translate your strengths as an athlete and apply those into the real world, and how you can take some of your skills as an athlete and put that into a language that recruiting professionals might understand, whether it's in a resume or whether it's in a LinkedIn profile, and just kind of the more practical aspects of transitioning from sports to getting yourself out there and finding a job and learning how to network. And then there was also going to be some emphasis around branding and leveraging your brand as an athlete, and how can you use that after sports, and how can you leverage your brand during your career, being around these influential people when your name carries some weight and you're constantly surrounded by a lot of sponsor events are CEOs and VPs and businesses all over the place that you don't necessarily get the opportunity to hang out with. And a lot of the guys, unfortunately, see it as tedious or something that they have to go do. But it's such a great opportunity to just get your name out there, meet people, create a connection, and leveraging that. And then really the rest of the week was then focused around kind of business, like a mini MBA, if you will. We were getting an immersive experience and visiting startups, having a panel of CEOs, talking to recruiting professionals, and just understanding how business works, and hopefully showing all the athletes different aspects of business to then say, okay, after that week, what area interested me the most out of that? And hopefully lights their fire to pursue something more after that.
You hit on so many important things there. As pro athletes, we have all those opportunities. A lot of times they're not thought about that, hey, you're meeting important people and all you got to do is be friendly. It doesn't even matter if you can play golf well or not, you know, as long as you're on the course or as long as you're taking the time to talk to somebody. How many stories have we heard, you know, where that turned into something down the road? So great advice. If people want to find out anything more about yourself, your businesses, One Sports and Entertainment, where can we send them to do so?
Yeah, the best spot would be onesportsentertainment.ca, which is our website. We have a whole section on after the game. RSG Wealth as well has information about after the game in the program. So those would be the best spots to go. And then you can find my contact information on there, and any social media platforms, and reach out to me. I'm happy to chat with anyone.
And one last question for you. If you have to recommend a great general wine for summer, give us one pick, please.
Whew. Well, it depends. I mean, if you're in Vegas and it's warm, I'd probably go with a nice rosé, maybe a Pinot Noir from Napa. That would be my two, nice and chilled, sitting by the pool. It'd be pretty nice.
Well, we think a lot alike, which is amazing for a guy from Clarkston and a guy from St. Lawrence, because I have similar feelings on it. But thanks so much for joining us, Grant. This was RSG Hockey, RSG Wealth, presenting Life After Hockey. I'm Mike McKenna on behalf of Grant Clitsome. Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, Mike.